Hell, why am I so far down? Hello, everyone. Wrong way. There we go, I think. Oh, now I know. Now I know. I was being a lazy boy. That's why. Let's see. There we go. That's much better. Very zoomed in. That's good. That's good. I think that's good. Good. How are we doing? Seems like I have some issue. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, a viewer will experience buffering. But I have 0 dropped frames. What if I restart this page? No, it's still saying that. I'll be right back. Stream is healthy. There we go. Awesome. I woke up with a kink in my throat, which I don't like. I like to be healthy. I don't like to be sick. And I like to be able to kiss my girlfriend, but I don't want to. Hey, Screen Dream. I don't want to give her this because then she's gonna have issues with work. And she can't afford to be not at work because we live in capitalism still. Who would have thought? We had spring last week for a few days. A lot of the ice that has built up during the winter was melting. But then during the weekend, we're back in winter, baby. Oh, I am so fucking sick of winter. I really it seems like we have spring today actually. I don't know whether maybe not. We are at -1. But it's sunny. It's sunny outside. So that's always something. But we are looking at a few plus degrees this week. But yeah, I am done with winter. I would gladly take some rain at this point. Just remove the snow. Remove the snow, give me some warmth. I want to be able to sit on my balcony in a sweater. The government is planning on forcing unemployed into employment return for any compensation. Yeah, I saw that. See here. You know what? It's my favorite time as well. I like mid-spring to late spring. Temperatures are perfect. You can go out in a sweater. It's not too warm. It's not too humid. It's just right. The only downside is you can't take a swim. Early summer, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I just want the temperatures in the waters to be a bit higher. But if we could have spring temperatures year round, I'd be a happy boy. Why can't I find... Okay, I can't seem to find anything about the government wanting to force people to work. But I know I read it that anyone taking any form of government handouts is gonna have to work, which is like, okay, are you gonna pay them more, or is it just gonna be like slave labor? The handouts aren't that big. Like you're not living high on the hog if you've if you're taking a government subsidy. Yeah, so did I. I saw that article as well. We probably saw the same article. Maybe I actually, because I haven't been on Reddit that much in the past year, few months. I was gonna say year, but that's not true. My profile. No comments. Nope. Can't find it. Can't find it. Anyway, it's a shit thing. It's a typical right wing proposal. Anything to do with government money, you have to work for. You can't just give people a life, you know? When we are talking, when people are talking about a what's it called? The Yang proposal. What's that called? Medborgarlön på svenska. Citizen salary? Is that what it's called? UBI, Universal Basic Income. Thank you. When people are talking about a UBI, the right goes, I think people need to work for that money. I think people aren't suffering enough. Oh, you can actually see my the sun shining in. That's nice. Doesn't happen that much. I don't live in Karlstad, unfortunately. This isn't the sunniest place on earth. Did you also happen to see Uppdrag granskning or Kalla fakta, I mean, and the manifest from the Social Democrats, which is in English. I watched this episode. I don't know what's wrong with Kalla fakta anymore. They release like 5 to 10 minute videos, and that's kind of like it. Which is, it doesn't go into depth. It doesn't do any. Did I say Social Democrats? I meant Sweden Democrats, of course. It doesn't go into depth. It's just baseline. It's just, here are the facts, period. No digging, no uncovering, no nothing. Just 5 to 10 minutes of the basic facts, which I can understand to some degree to like promote it. Watch the full episode with more, but that seems to be the full episode now. So I don't know. Anyway, I thought, because I've been looking for the manifest itself, I've gone on Flashback, I've gone on Reddit, I've gone on any place I can imagine, and I can't find it anywhere. The only thing I can find is they have this article where they go through the claims one by one. They see. Oh, thank you, Google Translate, for this excellent translation. It's the same word translated in two different ways: statement, claim, and påstående. But I thought we would go through this and see what it says. It's in English. It's from what's it called? This. It's the ISK Insamlingsstiftelsen för svensk konservatism. I don't know what insamlingsstiftelse is in English. Translate. Fundraising Foundation. Okay. The foundation for Swedish conservatism is the org. And you'd assume, and it's basically just a Sweden Democrat org or foundation where they fundraise in the dark, because that happens here in Sweden as well, of course. But it's a foundation that's supposed to be about Sweden, but it directs itself towards an international crowd. And you might wonder, why? Why? And this is this is why you can't allow as a Swede, as a European, as a global citizen, you can't look at the US and not know what's going on. Because what's going on there very much affects what's going on here. This paper was apparently circulating on at CPAC. They have the Sweden Democrats have very strong ties to the Republican Party and to Russia, of course. So I thought we would look at the statements or the claims one by one, and they do a false and partially true and partially false, or a true, if they translate it correctly. And I'll try to correct any errors in the translation. Statement 1. It will soon be impossible to win a political majority without the support of Muslim votes. False. The percentage of Muslims in Sweden is estimated today to be around 8%. This then corresponds to approximately 830,000 people. Not everyone is entitled to vote, and to get a political majority in Sweden's Riksdag, or parliament, more than 3 million votes are needed. They can't even get it by themselves. I'm not going to claim, as some cucks do, that I don't see a threat from too much Muslim immigration. Clearly, if we take in 10 million Muslims tomorrow, or within the next 2 years, let's say, to make it... Oh, you found it. Oh, right. Okay, you found that proposal. Let me just... No. What? Just get... What? Whatever. This is from what we were talking about earlier, the proposal from the Moderates, which is a conservative party, requirement for full-time activity for people with income support. they let's see, everyone who has income support and is able to work must also have full-time activities. Searching. Okay, either you have a disability, in which case you aren't able to work. Either you have long-term support, in which case you are, I'm going to say you are misdiagnosed. There should be a disability there. If you haven't done any labor, what is it, 6 years or something, before you get into long-term support, there's something there that makes you unable to work that hasn't been diagnosed yet. And this is just the conservatives wanting to fuck over regular people. That's all it is. That's all it is. And their proposal is what you should make like gardening jobs. Employ them as gardeners. A grant reform was one of the points in that Tidöavtal, all the conservative parties, and the requirement for full-time activities described by the Prime Minister as part of several. In the agreement is written that the reform would take place, among other things, through lower taxes for above all low and middle income earners, and through the indoctrination of grant ceilings. Indoctrination. I don't mind low and middle income people getting a tax cut. I think that's fine. I mean, we should have a more of a progressive tax bracket either way, where I think if you earn 20,000, up to 20,000, the first 20,000 you earn should be tax free. Period. And I mean, first 20,000 per month should be tax free, pretty much. I think that could actually work. I haven't done any research on it. It might be lower, but I mean, there should be some, because right now it's, what is it, first 20,000 of the year or something is tax free. Like, it's really, really, really low. Ultimately, it will be up to the Riksdag to decide whether the proposal for full-time activity becomes a reality. But given the composition of the Riksdag, the proposal looks like it can be hammered through. Well, that's awesome. This is only a first step in the reform, but it is completely in accordance with what the moderates have been talking about several. But what work will they be doing? Full-time activities means, for example, education or community service. Then hire them to do that work. Pay them a living wage then. They are on full-time support because they have no work. If you're forcing them to work, you also need to pay them for that work. Right now, you're just paying them, or we are just paying them, including me at the moment, to stay at home, to better themselves and not starve. That's the point. I gotta say, I think you speak clearer and with better English than you did in earlier streams. Thank you. I have studied in both America and Canada, and one of the things that I've said to my Swedish friends, whenever I've read something in English, like, I am ringrostig, out of practice, you know? It's just, I just need to practice the English more to get it to a level where I am more eloquent in my speech. This is just a racket to provide cheaper labor for employers. Yeah, exactly. That's all it is. It's fucking disgusting. Anyway, we were talking about the Sweden Democrats and their, let's say, their international propaganda. This is them trying to get, I believe this is them trying to get billionaires, American billionaires, to donate to them. Ooh, perfect. So, okay, what I was saying before I was derailed was, if we take in 10 million Muslims tomorrow or within the next few years, hey, Greek name. Hey, I got ya. I knew I got Vosh to give me free exposure, and it worked. I knew it. I fucking knew it. Thank you for joining me on the stream, all the way from Greece. If we take in 10 million Muslims tomorrow, within the next few years, for the 5th time, I think that would absolutely create an unsustainable society here in Sweden. That would completely topple any social structure we have. If they would be able to ignore democracy, they wouldn't care about democracy. They'd either set up enclaves within our society where Swedish rule and Swedish law and Swedish social customs are nowhere to be seen. And I think that would be a threat to society. We've seen in Malmö how there are enclaves of immigrant societies. I'm not going to say they're all Muslims. I don't think so, but it's heavily Muslim. And they have their own party. I wouldn't call them no-go zones because the police are still active there. But they could become no-go zones, I'm sure. But they do have their own party. Nuance. This is their party. And I mean, so it's not fundamentalist, as you can see here. There are women without the headscarves on, even. So it's not, but it is a possibility. Yeah, here, the Muslim nuance is bigger than the Christian Democrats in Malmö. Here's the thing. I don't like the Christian Democrats either. I think they are, hey Blaze, I think they are parallel societies. That's a better word for it. I think religious parties are a threat to democracy, period. Yeah, I remember that. I remember them having a rift. I haven't followed it. It's not the election is over. It's 6 months ago or something, and we can deal with that when it's getting. I can deal with that when it's getting closer with it. I don't care at the moment. If I had lived in Malmö, maybe I'd keep a closer eye on it. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie and pretend as if immigration might not be a problem. Clearly, it could be. Clearly, but we're nowhere near there yet. There are things we can do today to hinder these parallel societies to grow or even establish themselves. We don't do that by removing them. We don't do that by we don't do that by excluding them from the rest of society, which is what Sweden Democrats want. That is the absolute worst thing we can do. That's why we're in the position we're in right now. Was it there? Is it their fault? I remember them being the biggest. I don't remember 0.5%. Damn. But all of these are. That's 60. That's 80. That's 90. That's kind of 100. So that's 1%. They are all above 1%. And we got. Here we go. Yeah. It could have gone. I don't know if 1.5. I don't know if I put this entirely on Nuance. I don't think that's their fault entirely. But yeah, all other votes, all votes that are beyond the mainstream parties, yeah, I put that square on them for sure. It was an extremely close election, extremely close. But that's only because the center switched side. For anyone not in Sweden, Centerpartiet is not traditionally actually, have been in the last 5 elections probably, been on the right side. They have coalitioned together with the Christian Democrats, the Liberal Party, and the Moderate Party to create a right-wing coalition. This was before Sweden Democrats became as big as they are today, when they were an itty-bitty party. So the center, however, is the only party with some, on the right to say, with some balls at all. Like, I was shocked. I assumed the liberals would also switch. But no, they are more interested in having a right-wing power than not allowing for the Brown alliance with the Sweden Democrats. That is what we're looking at. But the Center Party, they have a new leader now. I don't remember the name of him. I believe it's him. And I think he has been a bit iffy on coalition building with the right, actually. Like, he might do it. Yeah, but there we go. Muharrem Demirok. Muharrem Demirok. I don't know how I'd pronounce it. But he has seemed to be a bit more open to the right, I believe. But yeah, it's horrible. We're only on claim 1 of this. The point of the claim 1 is it is not impossible to win. It won't be very soon impossible to win without Muslim support. That is an absolutely false claim. They are claiming this based on if immigration numbers continue like they did in 2018. So we had a we had an unprecedented number of immigrants back here between 2015 and 2018, I believe. Wait, 2015. Okay. So if these numbers continued That's what where this claim is coming from. If those numbers continued in that trajectory, which of course they won't. It was an unprecedented amount of immigrants back then, and the left-wing coalition government put a stop to the immigration because they recognized, oh shit, it is completely unsustainable for us. We can't continue society as it is if we allow all these immigrants to come, because everyone in the European Union just funneled their asylum seekers to Sweden. Denmark, the fucking Danes, they stripped the asylum seekers on almost any valuable possession they had, and then they sent them to Sweden. The fucking Nazis. But yeah, that's where this is coming from. So, of course, it's false. Claim 2. Mohammed is now the most common name among newborn boys in parts of Sweden. Yeah, in parts of Sweden. Like parts of Sweden can mean in an apartment block. I know it's more than that. Like in Malmö, I assume there's quite a few areas where Mohammed is the most common boy's name. Aisha is probably a very common girl's name down there as well. In a few municipalities listed below, Mohammed has been the most common name for the past 3 years. In total, there have been between 3 and 6 children named Mohammed. 3 and 6? Oh my god! And in most cases, the name has been in joint first place with names such as Adam, Liam, Elias, Benjamin, Nils, Gustav, Hugo, or Malte. Like, they're just like, oh, they're tied? Well, then Mohammed must be the most common name. Well, if every Swede, not every Swede, but like if the majority of Swedes name their boys Adam, like if that was the most common name for Swedes to name their boys, because we had such a great king once, Gustav Vasa, there we go. If Gustav was like, we want to honor our former glorious king with this name, and that's like what people do. Yeah, Gustav would be skyrocketed to the first place. I'm guessing this is okay. 2020, Ronneby and Avesta. 2021, Uppsala. Okay, this is just the areas. In total, approximately 50,000 boys are born in Sweden each year. Okay, so by out of 50,000. There have been between 3 and 6 names Mohammed in. Is that per municipality or total? Several Christian churches have been converted into mosques. Sant, truth. Okay. Cool, I guess. I'd rather see them be converted into places of work or even apartments or something. I don't know. Why isn't this translated at all? According to the Swedish church, there's approximately 3,400 Christian churches in Sweden. Amongst a few in recent years have been converted to other types of places of faith, among them Muslim. The reason is that Christian gathering places has lost a lot of members, while the Islamic församlingar congregations has instead seen a rise in their attendance. Like it's just a numbers game. People aren't Christian in Sweden anymore. Like that doesn't happen. And the people who are Muslim are generally the immigrants. And I mean, if Swedish born people are not attending churches, why would the churches keep going? Like, there are a few churches I want to preserve for their heritage. Like, of course, they have important landmarks or important history with them. Those should be preserved. But a lot of the churches are just, who cares? On a similar note, Karlsson was revealed years ago to have written for and recommended a far-right website which he himself called fascist. Oh, really? Are you talking about Auf Pixlat? Is that the one? Or whatever they're calling it now? Motpol. Okay. Yeah. I'm not surprised. I mean, he is a fascist through and through. So yeah, there are more churches are converted into mosques. Oh no, the horrors. Claim 4, Christian Psalms. Why isn't this translated? Nothing here is translated anymore. It's just this. Is it because I'm in reader mode? So here everything seems to be translated correctly. And if I go into reader mode, it stops being. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I thought I'd make it more visibly readable for you, but no, apparently not. Claim 4, Christian hymns have been banned in several Swedish schools so as to not offend Muslims. No. Without reading, I can tell you why. It's because we now have a separation of church and state. Period. We didn't used to have that. It's been implemented in my lifetime. When I was born, I was automatically enrolled in the church. This is a new thing. We have separated church and state, and that's a good thing. I still think the king has to be, the royal family has to be members of the church, though. I'd be surprised if that would be enforced, however. False. Several Swedish schools have opted out of Christian hymns, but they have not been banned. In the national curriculum, it is instead required that students learn music that connects to the students' everyday and festive context, including the national anthem and some of the most common hymns. Yeah, like Sommarvisan. The Education Act from 2010 states that education at a school unit or preschool unit with a public principal must be non-denominational. This means that it should not be religious. When Christian songs in schools have been debated, it has often been based on this. It is not about a general ban so as not to offend Muslims. The Sweden Democrats, Karlsson, he will still claim that, oh, but we separated the church and state because of the Muslims, which I which I just say fuck you to that. Like then there's no debating. Then that's the time you that's the point at which you take the rock from your hands and plant it on his head. You know, there's no debate beyond that. Claim 5, artists who criticize Islam and the Prophet Muhammad are hunted by Islamist terrorists. That is partially true, and which we should be working against, of course. After the artist Lars Vilks made a series of satirical drawings with the Prophet Muhammad's face on a roundabout dog for any internet. Okay, let's. Don't ask why, but for some reason, for some unfathomable reason, our roundabouts, for a period of time, had these homemade dogs in them. And I just don't get it. Like, I understand it's just a patch of grass. Let's put something there that's interesting to look at, that brings life to the roundabout, sure. But why these dogs, I cannot tell you. And people just did it. So, Lars Vilks, a very controversial figure, and of course, I believe, a Dane, who lives in Sweden, because Sweden is so much better than Denmark. He drew this painting, and that's when he got a lot of threats, because he depicted the Prophet Muhammad, which I maintain is a bitch move from Muslims. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's a bitch move. I'm not religious. I don't have to follow your religion. Go fuck yourself. I've seen troll posts on Facebook asking if Sweden should use Arabic letters. Oh, the morons! They do not understand. They do not know. I'm guessing when you say Arabic letters, you mean Arabic numbers. Don't think our letters are Arabic, are they? Like, here are the numbers, which we have just stolen. Arabic letters, however, I don't think we've taken it. Yes, numbers. Okay, yeah, and that's just them being. That's just them exposing themselves as the morons they are, not knowing that that the Middle East was like the place to be around the year 800 or something. Like, they had a golden age of innovation, in mathematics and in science in general. Until, I'm guessing, some crusades, and which just made them more radical. And radicalism demands you to not look into the world. We had that with Christianity as well. I mean, we can't. How many scientists have we decapitated in the name of offending God? We will domesticate Islam as well. We will It's already happening, and we will domesticate it. And just as we did with Christianity, and just as, I don't know if there's ever been fundamental. I can't think of Semitism. Have there been? Have there ever been any fundamentalism from? Well, I guess Orthodox Jews. I guess they are the fundamentals. But I mean, they still keep to themselves pretty much, due to the nature of in the world. I mean, in the world, globally, anywhere. Like, again, the Orthodox are the closest, I believe, to fundamental. I mean, I guess Zionism. Yeah, I think Zionism, perhaps. That's fundamental Semitism. Okay. That's it. But yeah, we will domesticate Islam, at least. That's my point. And that domesticated Islam, just like we did with Christianity, will be global at some point. Yeah, I remember that. And then Netanyahu has paid was it Hamas to so that they would win the elections, just to create a scapegoat or a reason for attacking Palestine. Like it's horrible. And thankfully, Netanyahu's attempt have been put on ice, at least. I think the protests have died down, unfortunately, because I think they should have gone further. They shouldn't stop until Netanyahu steps down. They should call for a new election. That's what they should do. But it seems like the protests have died down at the moment. Anyway, we're talking about Sweden Democrats. I almost said Social Democrats again. After the artist Lars Vilks, that's the guy we looked at earlier, made a series of satirical drawings with the Prophet Muhammad. I almost said Puppet Muhammad. That's actually apt. Face on a roundabout dog in 2007. He was subjected to death threats, including from the Islamist terrorist network Al Qaeda, which led to him receiving personal protection. On October 3rd, 2021, Lars Vilks died in a car accident. A few more cases in Sweden are not widely known. I think like it's only him that I know of because he's so prominent. Like if I draw Muhammad and put it on my Facebook, I'm not going to get death threats, even though I have Muslim friends on Facebook. In many Swedish cities, minarets is that? How do you pronounce that in English? No pronunciation? Never mind. Sound every week proclaiming that Allah is the only God. False. It is estimated that there are approximately 150 mosques in Sweden today. Only 7 are built as mosques. In 3 locations, the police have given permission for prayer calls to be broadcasted over loudspeakers between 3 and 5 minutes every Friday. 3 and 5 minutes every Friday. That's what they're complaining about. It is in Botkyrka, Karlskrona, and Växjö, which cannot be defined as many Swedish cities. No, and also, it's not even in Malmö. It's nowhere near Malmö. Botkyrka, that's in Stockholm. But these two, I don't think there's a massive Muslim population there, actually. In some Swedish areas, self-proclaimed Sharia police patrol the streets harassing women without veils. That is true. Again, the parallel societies, I don't like them. That there are self-appointed morale police in Sweden who in various ways force women to follow unspoken norms was revealed, among other things, by Kalla Fakta in 2017. Yeah, there were a lot of conspiracy theories around his death. But it was just a car accident. It just happened to be Lars Vilks. I believe the security patrol, the security detail caused his death, like unintentionally, because they died themselves as well. Sweden early became Europe's. That government planned it. Sweden early became Europe's main exporter of ISIS terrorists to the war in Syria. I believe that's England, actually. According to the International Security Agency, the SOFAN group, I've never heard of them, more than 5,000 people from Europe must have joined terrorist groups in Syria and Iraq between 2012 and 2016. 300 people. Why does it say must have been Swedes? Oh, are supposed are not must be, are said to be is a better. 300 people are said to have been Swedes. This corresponds to 31 Swedes per per million inhabitants. 470 people have traveled from Belgium. This corresponds to 42 Belgians per million inhabitants. 300 people have traveled from Austria. This corresponds to 35 Austrians per million inhabitants. 1,700 people have traveled from France. This corresponds to 26 French per million inhabitants. Sweden is thus not the European country with the most ISIS travelers, neither in relative nor absolute terms. Let's look at... there is one guy. Is that him? There he is. That's the guy. Mikael Skråmo. Like this guy. Oh, damn. A Swedish YPG soldier killed Mikael Skråmo. Holy.
Det har varit en dålig bror. Något av dem har sårat dig helt. Något sånt.
Och alltid.
Det sista
Strid minnas han.
Oh, okay. This guy, think of the most Swedish guy you can think of, and he's like talking about Allah and jihad and the fall of the West, and it's crazy. It is absolutely just. And here he is he was in TV proclaiming Islam being the path to follow, you know? Absolute lunatic. Claim 9. Islamists who advocate Sharia law in Sweden sit in the Swedish parliament. No, not even. The closest I believe we've had is in some kommun. Municipality. Some municipalities which which from the elected representatives or the elected parties, they choose some people to be to be judges in the lower courts, which almost always gets overturned. Like, it's really easy to overturn those laws or those rulings and get a higher court to look at it. Some of them have been Islamists. Like, there was a case in Stockholm where a woman wanted who had divorced her husband and wanted to. She went there. She claimed that he had beaten her and stuff like that. They told her that she should take this up with his family. Why was she making this a public issue? Those people were gone the next day. Hey, I'm not gonna lie, Screen Dream. It is kind of cringe. I do agree with that. I do tend to find myself disagreeing with ISIS. Sharia law consists of a number of regulations open to interpretation based on Islamic principles. But even if previous individuals' proposals from Riksdag members could fall into a freer application of Sharia, there is no general known information that any Riksdag member advocates the introduction of Sharia law in Sweden. Of course there isn't. But they believe in, like, Islam to the modern neo-Nazi movement is what Judaism was to the Nazis of the old. Like, it's just a one-to-one swap. That's all it is. Claim 10. Jews in Sweden are fleeing metropolitan... So my point is, so they believe that if you are Muslim in our parliament, you want Sharia law, period. You're just sitting there waiting for the opportune moment to introduce it, you know? That's all it is. Claim 10. Jews in Sweden are fleeing metropolitan areas and leaving the country as a result of hatred from Muslim groups. Partially true and partially false. There are Jews in Sweden who have chosen to move to the countryside or Israel as a result of anti-Semitic harassment, but the extent is unclear. A report from the Forum of Living History points out that anti-Semitism in Sweden mainly comes from the extreme right wing, extreme left wing, and Islamist groups. It's all three. It's all three. And why? I've been accused of being anti-Semitic because I oppose circumcision. Oh, okay. If that kind of, and I support it. I support a complete ban on circumcision until you're older. I don't know if it's going to be 18 necessarily, but at least a teenager, at least 15, where you're kind of able to make your own decisions. And they've said that's anti-Semitic, and if that is implemented in Sweden, which it was almost able to be, both in Sweden, Germany, and Iceland, I believe, have all toiled with the idea. If that was to happen, then all Jews would have to leave. And I'm like, if that's what makes you leaving, then I don't really care. If that's the thing that makes Muslims leave, I don't really care. It's their loss. I don't want them to leave because of that. I don't want to implement it so they leave. But if they leave because of that, I don't really care at all. Aron Flam calls that anti-Semitic. Yeah, of course he does. Of course. He's a conservative. Is he a Sweden Democrat? No, he can't be, right? He has to be a moderate or a liberal. But of course he does. Of course. He's the type of guy who listens to Jordan Peterson. I think he has praised Jordan Peterson even, hasn't he? Never mind. I know he's talked to him even. Aron Flam, Jordan. Yeah, exactly. Jordan Peterson. I think he's. Oh my god. Oh my god. He has actually. Right, he's talked to Dave Rubin, of course. Of course he has. That's not Jordan Peterson, Dave Rubin. I remember this. We might look at it someday.
Trump and that comes.
Honestly. It's a 1 hour long debate talk though, so maybe not. We'll see.
Everything else that I talk about.
But what? Just one camera? And it's all on. No, it's two cameras, but no camera. Okay, so there's Aron Flam.
This is, I mean.
So yeah, this guy he's a. Wait.
You ever wonder why?
I'm not gonna. Okay, so there's no. Okay, so he's just. Anyway. Right, he's been on the Dave Rubin show even. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, now I remember. Right. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like I said, there is a tight coupling between an unjust tight coupling between Swedish right-wing politics and American politics, which is why I am so interested in American politics. And, might add, I think there's more influence than people give credit to from Sweden to America rather than only the other way around. Like, I believe Swedish politics heavily influences American politics. We can just see that with Tim Pool going to Sweden, you know? With the no-go zones, which has been thoroughly debunked. And he's been thoroughly clowned for that piece. For that piece of journalism. where even the cameraman that he hired here in Sweden, I know Henrik Jönsson, right? In what capacity do you mean? Like personally? Like this guy? I know about him. Yeah, I've
Okay, that last part wasn't true.
Thank you. Like he is, I believe there's a know of him. Yeah. I believe there's a has he been to America or been talking with Americans? Probably. It wouldn't surprise me. There's a non-zero, how do you say it? Non-zero chance? There's a high probability. Let's put it that way. Let's not complicate things. There's a high probability that he is paid directly by the same people who don't, the same institutes that donate in the dark to our political parties. Of course he was. Of course. Henrik Jönsson, Dave Rubin. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. There he is. The Swedish Myth. I haven't seen this. Okay, we might look at that later. That's 9 minutes. We can look at that. Claim 11. Israeli sports team are not allowed to participate in competitions in parts of Sweden. Why wouldn't they be? False. Over the years, various actors have called for a boycott of Israel in a sporting context as a response to the country's conflict with Palestine. There is no generally known information that Israeli sports teams have been banned from competing in specific parts of Sweden. And even if so, if this is the reason why, not because they're Jewish, but because of their treatment of, like a boycott because of their treatment of Palestine, I don't care. Okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Hate crimes against Christians in Sweden have doubled in recent years. False. Hate crimes against Christians have fluctuated up and down since 2015. They have decreased dramatically from 388 cases to 73 cases in 2020. It is also lower than in 2010, when the number of reported hate crimes against Christians were 97. This is shown by figures from the Crime Prevention Council. A total of 3,398 hate crimes were reported to the police in 2020. 328 of them have had Islamophobic motives. Okay, so they're saying that there's more Islamophobia than there are Christophobia. Like, naturally, of course. Claim 13. Every third young woman in Sweden is subjected to sexual harassment, sexual assault, or rape every year. I like how they just say this without claiming that there's mostly white people doing this, perhaps. Like they want the reader to connect the dots themselves. Muslim hate, rape statistics. Muslim hate. True, in the most recent National Safety Survey in Sweden, around 30% of responding women in the age group of 2024 stated that they have been exposed to some type of sexual crime in the past year. I bet you, because I would have been in that same category, I bet there is a large dark number for male sexual assault. And I don't mean from other men, though that is included. I think from women. I lost my virginity to rape. I didn't know it at the time, but I actually said no because I was so fucking nervous. And she forced me. And of course it felt great. And of course I came back. But no, it was technically rape. I'm not gonna deny that. I haven't had trauma from it, But I think a lot of the trauma women experience is also due to the coddling and the society like treating them like they should have trauma from it. And of course, a lot of them have trauma because they say, I said no like 2-3 times. While as I believe a lot of women like probably really don't want it. But technically I should be in that category. And I think a lot of women wouldn't be as traumatized by the event if they, or would be able to overcome the trauma at least easier if society didn't coddle people so much. But that's my hot take. I might be completely off the rails here, completely. So please don't cancel me for this. But I don't like that the article doesn't mention how they this whole all the other claims are about Muslim rape or Muslim hatred for Muslims, and then they just throw in a correct statistics where the reader has to connect the dots themselves. I don't like that they don't point that out. They should have. Statement 14, Sweden. Why are they... Well, never mind. Sweden has almost as many explosions per capita as Afghanistan. Oh, that's a true statement. Oof. We are... And the recent gun violence that we've experienced is on the rise. And people like just chuck it up to, well, they're immigrants, of course, without any further analysis to it. According to the police, 133 and 107 explosions were carried out in Sweden in 2019 and 2020, respectively. And according to the organization Action on Armed Violence, 821 and 713 explosions occurred in Afghanistan in the same year. Per capita, there are roughly the same number as in Sweden. That is roughly the same number as in Sweden. Okay. The comparison has been criticized as only a few people have died from explosions in Sweden, while 4,630 and 3,485 civilians have been killed or injured in connection with explosions in Afghanistan. Shooting, riots, and gang violence occur almost every week. True. Police statistics 2019, 360 shootings, 133 explosions, 379 shootings, 107 explosions are a large part of shootings and explosions can be linked to settlements between criminal gangs. Okay, we're almost done here. Our capital, Stockholm, has been subjected to 2 Islamist terrorist attacks in recent years. True. Okay. Sweden has fewer hospital beds per capita than Ethiopia. And honestly, I used to work on the railway. I used to work on trains. And I had just like 20 minutes earlier left Stockholm on the train when the 2017 attack happened, where a truck drove down Drottninggatan, which is like the main street in Stockholm, which leads from a shopping district down to the parliament. I had just left Stockholm when that happened. I had friends who went shopping on Drottninggatan when this occurred. They had to throw themselves into a shop to not get hit. Fortunately, I didn't lose anyone there. But I know people who have lost people there from that work. So yeah, I am intimately knowledge. I have intimate knowledge on this event. Sweden has fewer hospital beds. I believe Sweden has a disproportionately high number of grenade attacks because a bunch of grenades were stolen from the government some years back. That might actually be. We used to have. I remember someone told me about a story when they had their conscription year, and they were robbed of their weapons because they had just come from a practice and they didn't have any didn't have any real ammo. They had blanks in their guns. And someone rolled up with a gun and said, "Give me your weapons." And they went, "Okay." So they, like 5 AK-5s went missing that day because of that. So it wouldn't surprise me if some conscripts actually stole a bunch of grenades from a depot that wasn't really watched or something. Yeah, that's kind of a composition. Get over it. It's not a big deal. It's stupid in my opinion. Yeah, but it's also I don't think we should. I'm guessing you were talking about the rape. My rape comments. My position is I don't think we should just tell people to get over it, but I don't think we should also coddle them. I don't think we should get them to wallow in their misery, which is what a lot of people do. A lot of left-wing people want people to wallow in their misery, which keeps them in that state and doesn't allow them to move past it. I know. I think in Greek culture, correct me on this. I can't pronounce that name for shit. But correct me on this if you are familiar with Greek culture. It might be Turkish culture. Anyway, you probably have more intimate knowledge of that as well. That when someone dies and you go to the widow and you talk about the dead person with them over the endless amount of food you're getting from your neighbors and friends, you talk about that person to the point where the grief is lessened. Where, like in the beginning, you're crying, but the more you talk about it, the less you cry, because you've had the ability to work through it. While as, at least here in Sweden, a lot of left-wing people want you to not talk to get over it, but talk to make it stronger. Which is, in my opinion, a idiotic thing to do. But you're right that the con position, while similar to mine, is just get over it. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It is a big deal. And you need to probably talk, you might need to talk to a professional about it. But yeah, that's my position. And again, I might be completely off the rockers. Anyone more familiar with the subject might be able to correct me on it. But that's my view on it. Anyway, claim 17. Sweden has fewer hospital beds per capita than Ethiopia. False. Of course it's false. It's Ethiopia. They probably claim the dirt as hospital beds. According to the World Health Organization, Ethiopia had 0.3 hospital beds per 1,000 inhabitants at the last measurements in 2016. In the same year, Sweden had over 2 hospital beds per 1,000 inhabitants. In an international perspective, it is still low. The incorrect claim seems to be based on comparison that have ignored the fact that thousands of care places in Sweden have been transferred from regions to municipalities. Okay. Jannes, that's your... Is it Jannes or Janis? I'm going to say Jannes. Got it. Claim 18. 300,000 elderly Swedish citizens live in poverty. False. Figures from statistics from Sweden, from the Central Statistics Organization, I believe. Yeah, Statistical Central Bureau. 2021 share of 65 plus Swedes in severe material and social poverty. 0.7% share of 65 plus Swedes in material and social poverty. 1.6% in total. There are a few people, and I don't like that. However, the idiots, the morons from the Sweden Democrats, support a government that wants to increase this number, that wants to make this worse The morons. But that's the con of the conservatives. Several ruling parties advocate increased immigration from the Middle East, partially true and partially false. In September 2021, the Green Party, remove that, was in government together with Social Democrats. In the electoral compass for the 2022 election, the Green Party and the Left Party and the Central Party stated that they want Sweden to accept more asylum seekers in general. In 2018, the same party stated that it was a bad proposal for Sweden to accept more refugees. All other parties responded that it was a good proposal. None of the Riksdag parties advocated increased immigration specifically from the Middle East, but a large proportion of asylum seekers come from there. Yeah, so it's not a direct advocation. So this whole document reeks of the Great Replacement Theory. For those who don't know, it's about, and honestly, I've seen this on both Twitter and on Reddit when people talk about this document. They're like, what do you mean a conspiracy theory? They say it outright. And no, they don't. The Great Replacement Theory is that a small group of elites, Jews, want to displace the native population with a different population. That's not happening anywhere at all. Like, it's just a conspiracy theory. It's not happening at all. They and when the author of that document was questioned about this, he said the same thing. He's like, no, what do you mean conspiracy theory? And they're like, it's a small group of elites, the reporter asked him. And he goes, yeah, they're called politicians, which is just a cop-out. We all know what you mean by a small group of elites. It's not subtle. We all know it. And you're just too cowardly to say it. Just say it. Just say it with your chest. You want to remove. You claim that Jews are. Oh wait! Isn't this the same? I removed it. Damn it! Didn't he go to Matthias Karlsson? Isn't he from the guy that moved to Hungary? No, he's not. He's not the guy who moved to Hungary. That was Erik Almqvist. That's right. He is who is working in Dalarna at the moment. Right. That was a different guy from the same party. But yeah, in the party, they have strong ties. The Iron Pipe guy, yeah. They have strong ties to Hungary. They have strong ties to the American right. All of which are, and they have strong ties to Putin as well, actually. All of which are fueling a conspiracy theory about a small group of elite Jewish people who want to control the world by displacing the native white population. There's nothing more to it. And why don't we look at someone who supports them, who has been on Dave Rubin, just to solidify the whole Sweden American tie on the right. I don't think, I might be wrong, but I don't think there's any ties, strong ties at least, between the left in either countries. Like in Europe, there are strong ties, or not. I don't know if they're strong, but there are ties between all parties in Europe. Like we have conservatives in Sweden and Norway and Germany and down to France, all collaborating, especially in the thanks to European Union. But I don't think there's any strong ties to America like the right has. And the right claims that they are against globalists. Well, what the fuck is more globalist than American ties? Let's listen to Aron Flam and Henrik Jönsson. They're both there. Corresponding myths of socialist Sweden. Correcting the myths of socialist Sweden. Oh, so this is just going to be, Sweden isn't socialist at all. But we want to destroy the healthcare system completely to really make sure that we don't have any lingering socialist ideals left. We need to completely remove everyone from everything. Like, let's listen and see what he has to say.
When we started getting all that money funneling into the country after the end of World War II, and the Social Democrats were like, look at us, how good socialism is working.
Yes.
And it had nothing to do with them. In fact, they're...
Okay, so there's Erik Flam on the left, and that is Henrik Jönsson on the right. And of course, Dave Rubin in the middle.
Policies, big government policies, wasted all that money. And, you know, in the 1990s, we actually had to devaluate our currency against the dollar. 30% of everything was lost because of the welfare state they built up.
There is very strong proof, I believe, that a welfare state makes a country stronger. Let's just take something like... I can't stand Johnson guy, smug, self-important, narcissist, LARPing as a nobleman. Yeah, he so wishes he was a nobleman, like he had a cross from the king or something. What's that called? There's an order. He wants to be in an order from the king's order. You know, there is. Let's take something like healthcare, for example, just to illustrate how a welfare state helps the economy in general. In America, healthcare is directly tied to your employment. What this means is employees have all the power. Because the moment you say, fuck you, I'm going somewhere else, and you don't have somewhere else to go, you are completely fucked. Oh, you got cancer? Guess you have to work in order to get that treatment. But maybe they won't even pay you for that treatment because your program doesn't cover cancer for some reason. However, if you have a welfare state that everyone pays into, no matter what, and if you're richer, you're paying more, of course, and yada, yada, yada. No matter what, you can say fuck you to your employer and still get the healthcare you need. It also makes employing someone cheaper and less administratively cumbersome. Because you don't have to care about their health anymore. That is taken care of by the state. So that's one example of a healthcare of a welfare state being beneficial to employers and employees. And that's probably also why Sweden is the unicorn. Stockholm is the unicorn capital, and unicorns are successful startups. Unicorn capital, Stockholm. Not capital, capital. The unicorn capital of the world, yeah. Yeah, a new a startup company that that is evaluated to at least $1 million. $1 billion within 10 years. Oh, damn. Okay, so unicorns are startups that within 10 years from the startup is evaluated at $1 billion. That is, in no small part, thanks to our healthcare system. The American insurance system incentivizes employers to go for opiate-based healthcare, sparking the massive opiate crisis. Yeah. Is that the insurance company's fault? I don't know if I can lay that on the insurance company's specific. Maybe. I haven't seen proof of that. I can't comment on that. What I do know is it's cheaper, of course. What I do know otherwise is that doctors, healthcare providers, are incentivized by the opiate companies to hand it out. They get referrals and they get like trips and stuff paid for and fancy dinners and stuff like that if they sell or if they push a lot of opiates to people. So it's a corrupt system through and through.
If you listen to our socialist Democrats or democratic socialists or whatever the hell they are these
Those two are different things.
days, I keep saying they're going to drop the Democrat part soon enough. What they always say is we should be more
What a comedian! You should make jokes.
like Sweden. AOC says this. Bernie says this. I doubt that AOC has ever been to Sweden. Perhaps
Hasn't she been to Finland? Or Denmark? AOC Finland? I believe she's been somewhere near here at least. Anyway.
Bernie has been to Sweden. But they say the Nordic countries usually, but it's specifically we should be more like Sweden. Now, you guys have 10 million people. We have 350 million people. We have people from every walk of life, from every corner of the earth. You guys mainly were a homogenous society until the last couple of years. There's all sorts of reasons that analogy doesn't quite make sense. But when you hear that, America should be more like Sweden. What is that?
Nothing pushes my buttons than when I hear stuff like that, you know. And this comes out of the mouth of what, Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. Let's clear this up once and for all. Sweden was never a socialist country in the sense that the Eastern Bloc was, you know, Soviet Union and so forth.
Of course
when
not.
Sweden
Of course not. AOC or Bernie or Warren, especially not Warren, the former Republican, none of those people want the Eastern Bloc style communism. That's not a Swedish entrepreneur. I know he's an entrepreneur, but he's mainly a YouTube personality now. None of those people want that type of communism. They don't want the oppressiveness. That's why they point towards the Nordic countries. And we have a myriad of problems in our societies. The welfare is not one of them.
Sweden became wealthy, this was during the last part of the...
Who even says Sweden is socialist other than the right-wingers? Yeah, exactly. American right-wingers at that. But okay, let me put it this way. Even Swedish conservatives would claim that if we went back to how Sweden was in 1990s, early 2000s, before the 80s, 70s, they would call that socialist today. I guarantee it. If there was a proposal to make Sweden more like we were in the 70s and 80s in terms of welfare state and stuff like that, they would 100%. In terms of how much of the private sector the government owned, Volvo, SAS, trains, SG, all those things. If we nationalized all those things again, the right wingers in Sweden would call that socialist. Mark my word.
1800s, we had a bunch of laissez-faire reforms done. And so that's when we started the transformation to industrialize. We were actually quite late to the game. It was these, free market reforms.
So when you got the government out, laissez-faire,
Yes.
suddenly the economy starts booming, okay?
Johan August Gripenstedt is the name of the guy that was very
That pronunciation. Renationalize the pharmacies. Okay, hot take from a left-wing guy. I don't mind the pharmacies being privatized, actually. I don't mind. That is the one reform that I don't mind. However, what they should have done if they were smart, because this is a problem we noticed during the pandemic, they should have said, you are free to operate your pharmacies however you like. However, we set the price for the drugs, and you have to buy the drugs from our facilities. We import the drugs, or we buy the drugs directly from the producers, and we store them where you buy them from. Because what we noticed during the pandemic was nobody had a catalog of rare drugs. So we were left without a lot of drugs that were painfully needed for months. But if we had a central lager, what's it called? Lager. Inventory. If we had a central inventory of the drugs where all the pharmacies bought from, I wouldn't mind the privatization necessarily. I would like to see that the state would have its own, though, just to make sure. Like they can run those state-owned in smaller counties, but I mean, I think smaller counties or smaller societies have the grocery stores be their pharmacy as well. So I don't mind that. I also like that in theory, at least, the joint postal service for the Nordic countries. Because these reforms I want, the big reform that I want is a unified Scandinavia. I like that idea. A unified Scandinavia. I think that would be an interesting project. However, the Danes need to be less Nazis. Norway and Finland also less Nazis, perhaps. But Sweden is ramp. We're closing in on them. We are closing in on them. But yeah, no, I'd like to see a unified North. And I don't mind in theory, the privatization of pharmacies, actually. I wouldn't mind a privatization of the Systembolaget either, or alcohol service, or alcohol resellers. I wouldn't mind that. It should still be a heavy regulations, but I wouldn't mind privatization of it. I don't know. But I would like to see a nationalization of necessary industries. And yeah, I can see a case being made for pharmacies being that. But then the pharmacies has to be open on Sundays as well. And that's the big issue that people had with pharmacies prior to their privatization. Anyway, I forgot what he was saying here.
So when you got the government out, laissez-faire,
Yes.
suddenly the economy starts booming, okay?
Johan August Gripenstedt is the name of the guy that was very forward-thinking, that made these reforms.
Johan August Gripenstedt. Oh, okay. We're talking the 1800s. Right. The 19th century, of course. Let's see if this is in English. What did he do exactly? Because I don't know anything about this. Politics and entrepreneurship legacy. Grip says is widely seen as one of the most decisive and influential persons in Swedish political history. As a great speaker and with good sense of political intrigues and tactics, Gripenstedt was successful in almost everything that he took in. He is not only credited as the one who initiated the guided Sweden's transition to a capitalist economy, but also as one of the main architects for the liberal revolution of the 1800s. His reforms changed Sweden definitely into a new direction of liberalized economy and free trade. Does he mean from a... if we went from a feudalist society to a capitalist society, of course that's good. During this period, Sweden developed from one of the poorest countries in Europe to one of the richest and most prosperous countries in the world. Okay. I've never been feudalist, but you know what I mean. From a more direct control from... I don't know what was Sweden before this, really? Like a peasant society? What's when we're talking about late 1800s, middle of 1800s? Like, what was it before this? Sweden before industrialization. Okay. Sweden pre-industrialization. But I mean, if we weren't capitalist, anyway, the point is, even Karl Marx himself praised capitalism in some ways. Like, he recognized that capitalism was a step forward in the direction that he wanted. So this isn't in contrast to what what communists actually, or socialists actually think. You know, even a socialist could praise him in theory. I don't know enough about him. I can't speak about Sweden prior to this. It sounds like you can more than me and that Screen Dream. But in general, it's not necessarily anti-socialist to praise him, you know? Though Henrik Jönsson would never agree to that. Industrialization greatly improved living conditions. You don't need capitalism to have industrial economy. Yeah, I know. It's not necessary. Russia proved that, or Soviet Union proved that. But capitalism is still an improvement from the days of old in most cases. It can, if correctly implemented, be a net positive for people, because the peasants all of a sudden have some cash to go around, which they might not have. I'm guessing in the most farms had like peasant workers which lived and were fed and hardly had any money to go around or the money they did have to go around, they spent it on hookers and booze. So I can imagine capitalist reforms were implemented with a need to employ your workers, how that could breed more money going to the lower classes, and thus they having a greater buying power, and thus they have more to say in general in society because of that. I can imagine those things without knowing the truth. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
possible. And then things started getting better after that. The other thing you need to remember is that when we started getting
The early capitalist era still brought tons of social problems like shanty towns, expropriation of farms, mass strikes like that in Sundsvall. Okay, it sounds like something interesting to read on. Do you have a book recommendation?
getting all that money funneling into the country after the end of World War II, and the Social Democrats were like, look at us.
We jumped from the early 1800s to middle of early 1900s.
The thing you need to remember is that when we started getting all that money funneling into the country after the end of World War II, and the Social Democrats were like, look
up the Sundsvall or the Ådalen riots. Ådalen riots I have read about, but it's a long time ago.
Look at us, how good socialism is working.
Yes.
And it had nothing to do with them. In fact, their policies, big government policies, wasted all that money. And in the 1990s, we actually had to devaluate our currency against the dollar. 30% of everything was lost because of the welfare state they built up. So if you hear Bernie Sanders or Warren say stuff like, we need to be more like Sweden, well, the part they're missing is that what was good about Sweden was free market oriented.
Like you can have, like socialism at its core is just worker-owned capital. Like if you, the minimum you have to have going from a capitalist society to a socialist society is worker-owned capital. If we had that in Sweden, that would be, I would classify that as socialist society, worker co-ops. If that was everything that was every company in Sweden was a worker co-op, I classify that as a socialism. Nothing he says here necessarily opposes that,
because of the welfare state.
A free market isn't necessarily against, or actually isn't against socialism. It's absurd for him to speak of free market capitalism because it was enforced by the government, which also banned labor movements, cracked down on strikes, etc. Yeah, oh God, yes, I remember. That is what Ådalen riots was about, wasn't it? Isn't that the mines in Ådalen? Where the government's like, okay, that's enough. You've had your fun. Back to work. Bam. Please correct me. Please say I'm right. Please say I don't misremember this. Ådalen riots. Oh, it's a personal matter for you. Damn, Ådalen shooting. Oh, a sawmill. Oh, you are a working class. Okay. You know what? I don't know enough about this to actually speak on it. I wish I did. I don't. Maybe I'll do a research stream someday. But I remember I saw Tårtgeneralen, or the Cake General in Sweden, in English, with my friend. I hadn't watched it. I don't know why. Swedish comedies are often cringe. It was a riot in the wood industry based on a lowering of our salaries. They called in the army and shoot a peaceful march of strikers. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember the last part. I'm probably thinking of something else for the mines. Anyway, I watched the Cake General, where it is basically, for international viewers, it is basically like a workers' working class. It looks like a Soviet Union style town, okay? It's working class. And I come from Falkenberg, which is a middle class town, but I am from working class origins, but I'm in a middle class town. So when I saw this, I'm like, oh my God, the people in these in this town are the people we laughed at. Like we had these people in my town, but they were beneath me. Like I'm from the working class, but I am not from the working class. Let's see if I can't get some stills to illustrate what I mean. No, I can't see him. But yeah, but anyway, my friend, however, he is from one of those towns, like a mining town. And he went, this is how I grew up. And I couldn't stop laughing. Because I have never in my life experienced such clarity in class distinction. My friend is lower than me in class, and I have like it's. I don't think there's like he earns much more than me today. Don't get me wrong. He is above me in class today, but you wouldn't know it looking at him. You wouldn't know it coming home to him. But he is a teacher, so he earns quite a lot at the moment. But yeah, I've never experienced that, and it was just so glaring to me. It was a really a moment in it's a defining moment in my own history where I could finally feel like I am better than someone else. I am from a so-called bruksort. Yeah, exactly, a company town. Exactly, that's where my friend's from too. Which is kind of like, when people see it, it looks like a Soviet town. A town that was created around and dominated by a specific industry. It's started rapidly declining after they started outsourcing in the 70s. I don't think my friend's town what's it called? Let's see if we can't find a good image of a company town here in Sweden. Where did Tårtgeneralen was it Philip Hammar grew up in Köping. That's the town. That's the town. Like, if you want to be depressed in Sweden, you go to Köping. Köping in the 80s. Like, there are some beautiful buildings here, but just look at this. This is the main street of Köping, I believe. And I mean, this is just depressing. This is completely depressing. I would kill myself. But then there are areas like this, which is just, I like this. This is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. This, Kramfors. Does that still look like? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, you look at those Christmas lights next to the 70s or 60s era building. Yes. Kill myself. But then there are buildings like this, which is perfectly fine and can be quite beautiful, actually. But where I grew up, oh yeah, now we're talking. Here, Old Town, where I grew up. Like, we have a beautiful bridge. We have a hotel, a bar, or a nightclub. But then we also have, like, this is the industry, and it just looms over cobblestone streets. Yeah. This industry just looms over the entire city. But you can't remove it now because it's a milestone, kind of, pretty much, in Falkenberg. Look at that. I mean, how beautiful isn't this? And then we have a beach. One of Sweden's best beaches. This is the city center, by the way. Not the best image from that area, but yeah. Come on, give me something. Oh, there's okay. I'm like, that's not Falkenberg, but yeah, it is, because there's a town in Germany called Falkenberg. It is next to Halmstad, and Halmstad, I have to say, it breaks my heart, but it's an even more beautiful city, in my opinion. That's not Halmstad. That's Varberg. This is like, I don't mind this, a modern building. This looks like hell. This looks beautiful. Norderport. Yeah, this is Halmstad. There are a lot of old buildings here in Halmstad. I am a Hallänning. I can't lie. I am from Skåneland, which is Halland, Skåne, and Blekinge. Because we have been warred over between Denmark and Sweden for ages. But yeah, I think southern Sweden is, like, there's a lot of beauty here in Dalarna, but southern Sweden is so much more beautiful, in my opinion. There is, especially around the coast, around the west coast, I don't think you can find anything more beautiful. Like stuff like this, old tegel. What's tegel? Brick. Old brick buildings. I love old brick buildings. I don't think you can. I don't think Gothenburg and South. I don't think you can come. Yeah, we got a lot of history. Unlike all of you company town folks, there is zero history in the company towns. Oh, we found a mine. Let's build a town. And it's in the middle of nowhere, and oh, they're gonna tear down the old building over there. Who cares? It's what, 50 years old, 150 years old. My great grandfather worked there. Our old brick buildings are factories. Our old brick buildings used to be factories. A lot of them. We can go. What's the Hagel? What's the camera name? Swedish camera. Hasselblad. This is their building, I believe. Hasselblad. I want to see their museum. I believe they have. Wait, is it? Oh, it's in the center now. I believe they had it. Yeah, this is. So this used to be a horrible image. Here you could have our old Hasselblads, the camera company. The company went into space with the first moon landing. This is an old factory that they just repurposed for their shop and a museum, I believe. It seems like they have moved now and are in the city center. Around here. But yeah, so not all our buildings our brick buildings are factories, but a lot of them are. It's still where my people are from. Oh, you're You're from Gothenburg or just Holland? Which isn't, I know Gothenburg isn't Holland, but whatever. This is a museum in Sweden, which is in Gothenburg, which is all brick. You said no when I asked you two things. That's not good communications. But then we have, I think another beautiful city in Sweden is, I need to go this. So I don't want to show you where exactly I live. We have Helsingborg. That's what I'm thinking of. Like this. This is, I meant my people are from the north, so it's still dear to me, even if it's a, oh, okay. I get it. I understand that, but still, in a company town, since there's not a lot of history there, I understand maybe that's becoming a reality. But I asked my friend, and he's like, oh, "Fuck no, nobody cares." Unlike someone that comes from the West Coast here in Sweden, where we have so much history that if they even try to touch a building, people get angry because that's where my great grandfather lived, or that's where X, Y, and Z. That's, and it's just beautiful. In some cases. So don't touch it. Like this. God, look at this. Härnösand, yeah. That's in the north, right? If I'm not... Yeah. Okay. And Sundsvall is right there, yeah. And yeah, I have never been there. But of course there's going to be, because... there's history here. There is history all over, all this way around. I think Gävle is a beautiful place as well. It is absolutely beautiful in Gävle. But then we have Gothenburg's ugliest building. I absolutely hate this building. Talk about destroying a city. And this is one of the first buildings you'll see when you get to Gothenburg. It's called the Lipstift. No, not Gävle. I meant Härnösand. I'm not the best at geography. I'm not gonna lie. When I grew up, I had a friend from Gävle region, and he oh God, that is ugly. Oh God, why? There's a similar building in Stockholm. Oh, buildy. Okay, not this one, but that's also ugly. That's not the one I was thinking of. Oh, never mind. There's a similar building in Stockholm, at least, that I've seen. It's just horrible. But yeah, this is rancid. But yeah, I had a friend from the Gävle region, and when you live in the south, everything north of Stockholm is the north. Like, there's nothing else to it. It's just the north. Because between Stockholm and Jukkasjärvi, to someone in the south, it's the same. Sörmlänningar. Let's see here. I want to end on something more fun. We've been let's see here. Oh, okay. I just shut up. Caleb Maupin protesting victims of communism museum, pro-war propaganda lies. I know nothing of this. I am sure it's a Republican thing though. Victims of communism museum. What is this? Exhibition. Come on. No? About. Give me something here. What is the price of a ticket? What else? Can I make donation? About leadership. Ambassador Andrew Bremberg? Ambassador of what? Ken Pope. I want to see what is their ideology. The Victim Communism is an education, research, and human rights nonprofit organization. The was authorized in 1993 by an anonymous act of Congress, signed as public law. Clinton, of course. And George Bush dedicated. Okay. So it seems to be a joint thing here, which doesn't really surprise me. Okay, let's see what Caleb Maupin in this 40-second long video has to say.
In a few days, Joe Biden is going to have a democracy summit. And his democracy summit is about spreading war propaganda and lies. Trying to build the case for war against China, trying to build the case for war against Russia, trying to build the case for war against Cuba and Democratic People's Korea and all the socialist countries. They have backed brutal regimes and dictators.
Cuba? I don't think Biden is doing anything about Cuba. Rubio demands Biden administration cancel Cuba regime's U.S. visit. So he's trying to normalize relations with Cuba. Yeah, but that's been going on for decades by now. Until Obama lifted some of them. And then Trump reinstated it.
Murderous, counter-revolutionary terrorists. They have backed extremists all over the planet, and they justify it with propaganda about victims of communism.
So that's so the funny thing here is it's just them. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people here. And that's it. There is nobody else here. He's just screaming into the void against passing buyers who don't listen, who won't do anything to him. 21 comments, 920 views. Like, it's not even... God bless you, Caleb. The landlords have their own museum now. It's not grade separated. But I'm glad to see DC is getting some dedicated bike lanes. That's a good thing. Okay, so he's just talking about bike lanes. Okay. There remains a precious resources where there remains valuable funds, blah, blah. Support for Serbia. So he's just... misfit gatherings. Yeah, there are dozens of us. Dozens, I say. I want to watch Infrared, but like all his things are 3 hour or okay. Here's 27 minutes, 2 hours, 1 hour 31 minutes, 18. Okay, I've only ever seen the long form videos pop up in my feed here. Why I'm a libertarian Stalinist? Oh, that's why. Because it's 3 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, and his live feeds are 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 5 days. That's why. I watched that debate. I don't think President Sunday did very good. President Sunday's debate tactic works or is what you use in an academic setting. Like in academia, you have to have a rigid definition. And if someone's definition of something isn't coherent, you attack it and you try to synthesize that definition down to its core, where it's no longer incoherent, and you move on. President Sunday cannot move on before he's done that and circle back to it where he says, so when a definition doesn't fit with what Infrared was saying later on, he could circle back to that and say, well, wait, you said this definition meant this. Now you're saying it means that. Which one is it? Do you understand why it's incoherent? He couldn't do that. So it just meandered on and on and on and on. And I think, unfortunately, that Infrared won that debate due to that. Unfortunately. Like, in the minds of people watching, I don't think anyone was persuaded either way. But I think nobody on President Sunday's side went away feeling like they accomplished anything, you know? And that's a loss in my mind. Why I'm a libertarian style. Okay, let's watch a few minutes and see what we can find here. I don't understand why he doesn't do any more short videos. Like, it's all just live streams. Is that because he gets like thousands of viewers there but no, he still gets views here as well? I don't understand. I don't understand. Yeah, exactly. 5 hours of semantics rambling. It's just meaningless.
So, libertarian
God, that's loud.
Stalinism. Why am I a libertarian Stalinist?
Which is an interesting ideology, to say the least. Stalinism, the way I understand it, is a totalitarian ideology where the state controls everything. Right? Like, it's state-run capitalism. Okay, it's just... Thank you, Wikipedia. Stalin's notion of socialism in Soviet Russia was initially considered next to blasphemy in the ears of other Politburo members, including Zinoviev and Kamenev, to the intellectual left, Rykov and Tomsky, to the pragmatic right and the powerful Trotsky, who belonged to no side but his own. None would ever even consider Stalin's concept a potential addition to communist ideology. Stalin's socialism in one country doctrine could not be imposed until he himself had become close to being the autocratic ruler of the Soviet Union around 1929. Bukharin and the right opposition expressed their support for imposing Stalin's ideas, as Trotsky had been exiled, whereas, so it's just a totalitarian. Juxtaposed to libertarianism, which is no state whatsoever at all, in any case, no official laws, period.
Now, I've talked about this a lot before, but I want to clarify it exactly because people seem to be really confused. For example, how can a communist not care about the minimum wage? How could it be that a communist wants the public sector to be like destroyed pretty much and wants to like implement these drastic, just like curb government overreach, all this libertarian rhetoric that we endorse, slashing taxes across the board? What's up with that?
What is up with that?
How can you be a communist and advocate all of those things? Well, it's for the same reason that we could be communists and not advocate for voting for the Democratic Party.
Which is stupid.
It's dialectics. It's the foundation of Leninism, actually. All you have to do is go back to the roots. Not only the roots of Marx and Engels, but more specifically and decisively go back to Lenin. Now, the Social Democrats in Lenin's time were operating under the fatal assumption that I have a vision of society that I want to implement. Therefore, I should support strategically the ruling class and the existing state on a number of issues because I'm just going to assume that, okay, there's overlap. Now, the devil and the name of Satan in the history of communism, the name of Satan is overlap. There may as well be of overlapping views and agreements. For example, if Joe Biden passes an infrastructure bill, you sit here and you say, well, if I was in power, I would also pass an infrastructure bill. Therefore, I'm going to support Biden because there's overlap. May as well support him because I support the same thing if I was in power. Well, you're not.
What? I don't support people because if I was in power, I'd do the same thing. I don't think of politics as if I was in power or relating to as if I was in power. That's not how I think of politics. I go on a case-by-case basis of I like that policy. That policy is good for people, not I would do that. That's what I would do. Because sometimes it's not what I would do, but I still think it's a good thing.
Placing a strong enough emphasis on the if part. You're not in power. So you should not be putting yourself in the shoes of the people in power.
Exactly.
And basing your support for them and basing your strategic position
See
in
you, Blaze.
relation
Thank
to
you for
them
being in chat.
on whether there's agreement in terms of the implementation of policy. If a communist government is going to do a lot of things and intervene in the economy in very strong ways, that is going to be a different government.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the current government. It's going to be an entirely different government that has a completely different foundation and which was basically built from scratch. It's not going to lay hold of the ready-made state machinery, as Marx said.
What the fuck are you talking about? This is why I can't watch Infrared. I don't see the through line here. I have zero idea what he's talking about here. Like, at all.
It will not lay hold of the ready-made state machinery. It will rather found itself on the basis of smashing that state machinery. So that's the first and most important thing you have to keep in mind. The Communist Party USA fundamentally betrayed Leninism. After Khrushchev's revisionism, this was really cemented. Well, there's a few details of confusion, right? The Communist Party rises to prominence mostly
let's just
always
jump.
be represented in the form of a woman. I'm a sociologist.
What?
When you're sitting here being a socialist who sees socialization, as in bureaucratization, as the solution to all the fucking world's problems, you're just a little bitch. You can't be thrown out in the fucking wilderness and make anything from scratch. You're always gonna fucking need someone to hold your fucking hand. And you need everything to be socially mediated. I mean, at what point does this become like an incel fantasy? And you're gonna start socially mediating how people get pussy. Like, oh yeah, you're not gonna be able to fuck anymore until the fucking commune decides you can. At what point does it cross over into that? Because I'll tell you the fucking Freudian realities of this, right? The socius will always be represented in the form of a woman. I'm a sociologist. That's what sociology is about, by the way. The socius, or the body of humanity, is always feminine.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
As the oil industry is fueling our societies.
So wait, is he saying that unless you can fend for yourself in the wild, you're not a socialist?
Do our societies run on oil? Oil is the counterpart to Freudian drives, which are also, according to Freud, attached to geology, to geological processes, which is what produces oil. Oil is a loop.
Can you hear me? You can see me now. Okay. I have no idea what happened there. It just went black for me. No input would work. But I'm here, though I am. Yeah, I'm gonna cut it here. I really wanna. Let's just talk about my streams for a while. Last week I did a stream I was really happy about, and I got a lot of feedback from, which is I'm glad. But I feel like I need to find. I need to find a format for my stream that works, and I'm still struggling with that. So if you have any videos you think I'd be good at reacting to or something, send them my way, please. If you have any ideas or anything, just post them in comments or in chat. Either way, I want to find a format that is fun to look at and that I am good at doing. And I know it's going to take some time. It's a constant struggle. But yeah. But I'm going to end it here. I want to thank everyone for being in chat. I'm probably going to go live on Friday, I think. Yeah. Let's say Friday. That sounds like a good idea. See you then, and take care.